Oh my days, welcome back, mere mortalites. I have Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO, the 33 Laws of Business and Life, and I have some learnings from this book. As usual, I go through and tab, put a couple of notes. I get better as I go along, just to sort of put through what do I think, what are some specific call-outs, what are some learnings that I at least am picking up in this book. If you want to go check out the full review that I've done, and have a look at that, there should be a link, or you can find it quite easily through all of our profiles. But this is just a chance for me to get specific across a few items on the book where I've gone, I really enjoy this, and I just want to talk about it. I won't delay. I think we just get into it. The first one that is in basically the introduction was, and my little note here, I'll always start with my little note, and then I'll actually talk through the book, is not just in books, but in conversations too. So what do I mean by that? So the design of this book is based on 5 core beliefs, comes from the introduction. He believed most books are longer than they need to be. I believe most books are more complicated than they need to be. I believe pictures paint 1,000 words. I believe stories are more powerful than data, but both are important. And I believe in nuance and that the truth is often somewhere in the middle. So my call out there was like, again, this is not just in books. This also applies to conversations, to a lot of the other ways that information and just general human interaction happens. Things can be longer than they need to be. I've seen this in the way that I sometimes articulate, be it work or relationships, sometimes pulling it back, being a bit sharper, and again, being more precise and fluid with what you're trying to say, as opposed to just being, rambling, right? It can be better. And so I like that he applied those core values into this book, and it very much actually showed through that there was just enough information as opposed to just in case information. The second one here, this is in relation to the buckets in Law 1. My little note here was, fill yourself, then find the joy in looking after the world. So the quote here that I kind of pulled out was, I'll talk about the buckets, but just a little call out of it. So the buckets were, that sort of Stephen calls out, should be done in sequence, is what you know, then what you can do, then who you know, what you have, and what they think of you, which is knowledge, skill, network, resources, and reputation. But the quote there that I called out from filling yourself, then feel the joy of looking after the world is, you cannot pour from empty buckets. So of those buckets, you cannot pour from an empty bucket. So really, you need to fill yourself, and that concept is of the what you know and what you can do, your knowledge and skills, and then, and only then, go ahead and fill the rest of the buckets. Otherwise, you have nothing to fill it with, right? To fill something with, or to gain a lot of reputation, generally isn't filled by yourself, right? As in, if you don't have the knowledge or the skills, but you just fill those other ones from external inputs, you're going to have a bad time. So try and avoid that where possible. The other one that I've noted down here is, and I put my note again as the question. The question, a prompt is half the answer plus precise language. Now, this one's a pretty long one. So it's the section is the power of the question and behavior effects. I'll read a little part from this one. David Sprout, a co-author of the research from Washington State Uni. If you question a person about performing a future behavior, the likelihood of that behavior happening will change. Questions prompt a psychological reaction that is different from the reaction to statements. And another point here was, the question behavior effect is more powerful with questions that can only be answered with yes or no. The question behavior effect is at its strongest when questions are used to encourage behavior that fits the receiver's personal and social ambitions. When answering yes to the question would bring them closer to who they want to be. So, the question being that essentially the prompt, hidden or non-hidden, to lean into either what they're after or who they identify as. It's just interesting how it's just like applying a question, not even just a prompt, but using a question as a prompt. The next one that I've sort of called out here is from Law 9. Law 9 is always prioritize your first foundation. There's an analogy, and I wrote down, I love this comparison to the car analogy. I'll be brief with it. This is from Warren Buffett, as in a quote that Stephen put here from Warren. When I was 16, I had just 2 things on my mind: girls and cars. I wasn't very good with girls, so I thought about cars. I thought about girls too, but I had more luck with cars. Let's say that when I turned 16, a genie had appeared to me, and that genie said, I'm going to give you the car of your choice. It'll be here tomorrow morning with a big bow tied on it, brand new, and it's all yours. Having heard all the genie stories, I would say, what's the catch? And the genie would answer, there's only one catch. this is the last car you're ever going to get in your life. So it's got to last a lifetime. If that happened, I would have picked out a car, but can you imagine knowing it had to be to last a lifetime? What would I get? I would read the manual about 5 times. I would always keep it garage. If there was at least a dent or a scratch, I'd have it fixed right away. This is exactly the same position you are in concerning your mind and body. You've only got one mind and you've only got one body, and it's got to last a lifetime. Now, it's very easy to let them ride for many years, but if you don't take care of that mind and the body, they'll be a wreck 40 years later, just like the car would be. It's what you do right now, today, that determines how your mind and body will operate 10, 20, and 30 years from now. You must take care of it. And I guess the prioritization of the first foundation here is health and wealth. Wealth of the mind and health of the body. And it was a beautiful comparison there to the car. And if you're listening to that, if you would have thought it probably the same way, if you're like me, you probably already think that, like, how do you look after your body? But that one made me stop and think even more, like, damn, it's true. You gotta really look after it, right? It's just one for a lifetime. My next little note here. So this is in law. Let's quickly look. Law 10. Law 10. My quote, or my note here, this challenges my concept of the do the basic well. So let's see what that means, because I've got a thought of you got to do the basic well. The quote is from Rory Sutherland. Meaning is conveyed by the things we do that are not in our own short-term self-interests, by the costs that we incur and the risks that we take. And the big quote on the outside is normality is ignored, absurdity sells. And it challenged my concept because I kind of view it more towards the side of, yes, normality is ignored, but sometimes the bare concepts or the bare expectations get missed. And it's the ones who do the basics really, really, really well also become absurd in my own mind. But Rory Sutherland is probably an individual from a marketing perspective that I've sometimes gone, yep, sometimes I agree with that. And sometimes I go, okay, good to see it from his perspective. That's just not what I think. My next little note here, and this is in Law 11. I always thought this was just something I did. Interesting. It's called semantic satiation. What does that mean? There's lots of father. Have you ever noticed that if you repeat any word over and over and over again, it begins to become just a sound? Even when you look at the same word written repeatedly as seen above, the brain will eventually tune out its meaning. This loss of familiarity sometimes it makes a word look like it belongs to another language. Stare longer and it may appear as merely a collection of letters. Stare even longer and it'll look like a meaningless mark on paper. Semantic satiation is what that's called. And I literally thought that that's only something that I would do. Again, we're all unique. We're all mere mortals. But yeah, that father. All of a sudden, am I speaking German? Am I saying something different? I look at it and I go, what does that even mean? It was interesting that it had a context or a word. I never knew that. So big takeaway from me. Semantic satiation. In Law 14, I wrote, was this book done very low to end? This rewrite is awesome. Unsure. Let me see what the hell I'm talking about. So in Law 14, it's friction can create value. Our research revealed that customers in different categories had different expectations. And with different expectations come different psychological moonshots. Okay. So, yeah. I'm not actually sure what I actually meant by that, to be absolutely quite frank with you. But the friction can create value, and the different categories of expectations, with different expectations come different psychological moonshots. I know they talked about previously around psychological moonshots. I'm just going to leave it. If you take away something from that, take it away. I think my note there was not descriptive enough, and take that as another learning, right? Be better with your notes one. I think I read this book like 3 months ago now. The other one from Law 14 that I noted was, wow, I had never considered this, and it makes sense. What the hell was I talking about? Well, I was more specific on my note here, and it's there's a cake and a steak in this particular image as well. There's lots of images in this book. Flight, hotel, and insurance aggregator websites understand that friction can create value. They found that faster search times on their websites often resulted in fewer sales. They now artificially increase search times and show all the sites they're searching in an attempt to convince you that they've done a thorough search so you don't have to look elsewhere. This tactic has resulted in more sales, better retention, and higher customer return rates. Yes. And straight after learning that, I think I've recounted that and told that to quite a few people, because it was really interesting, right? I never knew that or thought about that in that way. Law 29. So this is the 10 steps to building a company culture. I noted it down. I selected it because I thought it was just a very interesting thing across the 10. I'm going to try and summarize them because it's a whole bloody page. But Stephen sort of talked around define the company's core value, integrate the desired culture, agree upon expected behaviors, establish a purpose that goes beyond the company's commercial goals, use myths, stories, company-specific vocabulary, and legends with symbols and habits, develop a unique identity, create an atmosphere that celebrates achievement, encourage camaraderie, community, and a sense of belonging, remove barriers and enable employees, and emphasize the unique qualities and contributions of both employees and the collective. Now, it's more detailed than that, but I noted it because I went, the way he's described it in this particular chapter / law really did a good job around how to build the right company culture. And it wasn't like, to the super detail of what you should do, because when you go through it, it actually is a recognition that it's to do with your own core values and your own understanding and what you think is the right supportive nature of the work that you're doing and all that. He himself, and I believe his work, they all work sort of in person as opposed to mostly remote, although they do some remote work. So I think the way he described it came from a lot of learning of real world learning as well. The last note that I took is a quote, and it is from Cristiano Ronaldo. And I noted, not unusual, but agree, can do both. What does that mean? This is from Law 32. He treated me differently from the other players. And this is talking in relation to, what's his name? Ferguson, I believe. So Alex Ferguson from Manchester United Law. He treated me differently from the other players. He would always talk to me and give me advice. He helped me to become a better player. And the reason I say is not usual in the description in this particular law is rather than treating everyone the same, he kind of treated everyone a little bit differently and interacted in the right way. And when I noted that, and I went, I guess you'd want to treat people in the sort of same way. I actually, looking and reflecting back now, what it actually meant is that so Alex Ferguson kind of interacted with each individual in their own specific, unique way to better, each of their goals or progresses or what they needed. But there was a fundamental layer of the way that he did this as a broad sense in terms of the focus and the intensity to know people that made him so good through all the years at Manchester United. So those are my call-outs or learnings from the diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. If you've got any others that come to mind, if Stephen's listening to this and you think you've got some others, mate, that you want to add, feel free to do so. For now, I'm going to leave it there, me Immortalites. Be well. Go and follow us and subscribe and comment and do all the great things that help us out, stay relevant and stay doing the show. But for now, be well. Immortalites, one out.